Welcome, everybody, to Sharing the Path Zoom call hosted by Temple of the Open Heart. And we're fortunate, welcome, Canyon. We're fortunate this evening to have Neal, who put together a presentation on teachings of the Red Ray. And we're going to have part presentation and part discussion. It'll be close to half and half. We'll have a significant amount of time to ask questions to Neal, and then also just open it up and talk about what came up for us during the call. So when we get to the discussion part, I think we'll hold all of the discussion until the end. And when we get to the discussion part, here's a little context for the culture that we like to create. So first of all, the invitation is to listen deeply to one another, listen for resonance. This is a practice of sharing the path with one another. And so we listen deeply for the truth that this other self is speaking. So listen for that resonance. And then as we share directly from your experience as best you can. So, to open it up to be transparent with one another, what's going on within you as you experience what it is that you're sharing. And then also honoring free will, one another's free will. So in the instance that what someone's sharing isn't resonant for you, the invitation is to give them the permission to have their own experience, their own perspective, that we're not all looking to agree with one another. We're not looking to convince one another. There's varying perspectives. Welcome here. So that's the invitation for our cultural context. And so now let's just take a moment to settle in and have a meditation and prayer. And I invite us all specifically to allow yourself to feel grounded, to feel that connection with the earth right now. Presentation will be on the red ray, and so I just invite us to access our own direct experience of red ray throughout our time together. And invite whatever support is available to you, whatever support you like to draw upon, whether it's Pachamama, Mother Earth, whether it's guides, angels, whether it's the creator, whether it's your own wisdom and intuition. Let's just all take a moment to invite support. Invite support for this community conversation to be beneficial, to be uplifting. Thank you to all of that support that's here for us as we gather in circle in this virtual way. Thank you, support. Thank you, One Infinite Creator. And thank you, friends. Amen. And I'll pass it off to Kent, who's my co-facilitator, who's going to introduce Neal.
Thank you, BJ. First, I want to say I'm amazed at how many people I've met in the past couple of years who had their spiritual awakening in this decade since 2020. Seemed like significant numbers of people at the last year's coming home event just had recently gone through their spiritual awakening, and that so did Neal. He wasn't at the coming home last year, but he's one of those people. And Neal grew up in a household with a dad who was a practicing Jew and a mom who was agnostic or atheist. And the household was pretty much scientific, secular for the most part. So he didn't grow up with a strong spiritual faith. In school, he was high school and college, I imagine. Uh, he was mostly focused on, you know, creating a career that made him money and, and drinking and partying, I guess, right? And so in 2018, he finished with a degree in marine biology. Then he struggled with depression and drinking and drugs and stuff like that, as many young people do. In 2020, his mom got sick with cancer, and she passed away in 8 months, and that was really hard for Neal. And he got even more heavily into drinking and drugs and stuff like that, and it ended up with him trying to take his own life. He attempted suicide in 2020. And that took him into a rehabilitation center where he met other people who had been through a similar story. And some of the people there encouraged him. They told him and they saw the light in him and encouraged him to not go down the same path that he had, uh, because some of them were older than him. He was still in his mid-20s. And so that's after that he began his search, his spiritual search. He felt like there had to be something more in life, because of stories he heard about poltergeists and things like that. And so he started watching Ancient Aliens, and that opened his mind to a wider perspective of things. And then he started watching the podcast Buddha at the Gas Pump by Doug Scott. I'm not personally familiar with that, but apparently Doug Scott is a student of the Law of One. And that's how Neal became aware of the Law of One and began studying the Law of One material. And that gave him the sense of peace that all will be okay, you know, something he hadn't felt before, I imagine. Um, he now works to provide peer support for addicts and people who are considering suicide. And he wants to go back to school and study to become a social worker. That's his goal. And so that's where Neal is today. And Neal, go ahead. Give us your presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ken, and
Yeah, thank you.
for holding the space and everyone that showed up. I'm so thankful to be able to present some information that has helped me on my path and hopefully can help some others. So I'll start the share here. So it's 56 slides, should be about 45 minutes or so of talking, and then we'll have a discussion after. So I was interested in the red ray, first density, and that foundation experience that the creator sent out for everything else to be built on top of. So starting off with a quote from Quo, they say in 1989, beginning with experiences as air, fire, earth, water, and all the elements, you have built your biases and your uniqueness as a spark within the one infinite creator. You are perfectly your own self. So moving to session 40 with Ra, Dawn asks Ra if the colors coming out of the prism, the Roy G. Biv, corresponded with the densities as Ra described. And in raw terms, they say, yes, you are correct in assuming that the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, so on is the way that you have your chakras and the way the color spectrum is sent out. So same here with our chakras running through our body and the light being transformed into the different colors. So in session 47, Ross says that the red ray is your chemical body, the unconstructed material of the body, the elemental body without form. The basic unformed material body is important to understand, for there are healings which may be carried out by the simple understanding of the elements present in the physical vehicle. So just an understanding of what we might need in our body and how that could influence us. And sometimes if you're craving more salt, or you know that a plant might need some more carbon or phosphorus, and just knowing what elements are in your body can create healings. So Ross says the red ray will have the first opportunity to react to any experience. What is the opportunity but survival? You will find this instinct the strongest, and once this is balanced, much is open to the seeker. So whenever you go out into the world or have any sort of catalyst, the first experience is, am I going to survive this? And then you can move forward. So you usually, assess the situation if it's safe first. So Don asks, how does one individual go about balancing himself? Ross says, you must understand the energy centers. The first balancing is of the earth, or the Malkuth vibratory energy complex, called the red ray. An understanding and acceptance of this energy is fundamental. So how do we understand and balance that red ray? So Quo in 1996 says the strong red ray energy is the allowing of the self to rejoice in the feeling of life, to feel the vivid energy of blood moving through the physical body, the organs doing their balanced working, and the nervous system opening and turning towards the light of the physical world. This expression of light, the smile that lights up the face, can express for the red ray is in its pure expression. So a simple smile and just thinking about the blood moving, and we don't have to do any of that. It's just going on its own. And the fact that it's just running and we have life can put that smile on our face, knowing that that can strengthen our first chakra. Quo also says to best allow the free passage of energy through the red ray, it is well to sit with the self and contemplate what it means to have life, what it is to have the beating heart, what it is to have the intake and breath, and what it is to be caught between the creator and nothingness, what it is to have eyes open upon the present moment. So I like to zoom out each morning and, like this astronaut, look at Earth from the zoomed out view and tell myself that, yes, I did choose to come here and serve. And then the bottom picture kind of being that entrance back into the day and that moment of taking the silence before going out into the world. So in meditation, Quo says we would suggest it is helpful to visit every day asking yourself, what are my issues with survival? Do this work patiently and with a sense of humor, and completely without self-judgment. The object here is not to decide how to better the self. The object here is to come into an awareness of where you are today. A bright and cheerful attitude toward spiritual work is what we may call the best beginning. So much is opened by meditating upon a basic yes within the red ray. Much is resisted, feared, blocked, or not accepted because of a deep no within. Blockage in the red ray energy center is created by your feeling on an unconscious level that you have erred and made mistakes. Through a deeper and deeper yes, much is open to the seeker. I am very guilty of beating myself up, telling myself I've made mistakes, and just through acceptance and some affirmations of telling myself that I'm okay and saying yes to the day. So no matter what happens, I feel clearer and more able to go out into the world without all thinking, stressed out, and just be more present. So a visualization technique that quote provides is in whatever way you visualize, see the workings of the red energy center in your own body. If it is muddy, ask it to clear. If it is dull, ask it to sparkle. If it is not rotating, ask it to become active and clear functioning. So to access higher states of consciousness, the breathing is to originate lower and lower in the body, not simply through the lungs, but deep down from the red ray chakra up, so that upon the breath, the stomach may even move. The more serene state of mind, the deeper the breathing. So I'll go back and like to kind of add everything up here. And my own personal journey is sitting in the morning, right when I wake up, that zoomed out view of Earth, and I will put a smile on my face and just see where am I at today. And if I'm resisting anything, try to find that yes and include this slide here where I'm taking some deep breaths. If I'm catching myself thinking or worried about my survival or money or whatever is coming up, I'll take that deep breath and continue to go about the meditation with that sense of humor and non-judgment. So here's a situation in real time that could happen where you get in a car crash and survival, it's scary. It could have hurt yourself or the other person. And then there's money, survival with money and anger tied with that. And then we can move up talking with the person, get to know them, and then eventually maybe moving our way up to love and seeing them as the creator equal to ourselves. And we're just here having experiences to help each other up the mountain towards love and happiness. So some ways to heal the red ray are sharing those feelings of depression and unhappiness with those whose ears are open to listen, begins to get the red ray to open again, begins to make life seem good again. The colors of red ray brighten and the heavy energies lift. So red ray and sexuality is a big topic, but I tried to read several different channelings to see what the majority of the messages said from the Confederation. And they say, we do not mean to claim that the clearing red ray energy one must be sexually active. That is not so. However, one must be comfortable with one's body, with one's sexuality. Within each fart and giggle and mole, the world offers these chemical vehicles which make such funny noises and do such funny things. It happens. So then here is a picture of young Jim and young Carla, the scribe and channel for the Law One. And they figured out that channeling Ra, if they had sexual intercourse, that would increase their energies and make it easier for them to channel Ra. So in the previous slide, it's not necessary to have a sexual partner to have a clear red ray, but it can certainly help and make life better when you find love and can go about life with a partner or in the ways that Jim and Carla were together. So then I found a channeling from Latouille that kind of describes the way that red ray was important in being able to connect with those entities of the outer planes or beings in outer space, you could say. Latouille says when Carla's channeling, this instrument's red ray energy center was most dim, and in preparing to offer words of inspiration, neglected to be enough aware of the focus upon the re-energizing of the will to live joyfully that reopens the red ray. Thus, to this instrument's surprise, we asked her to move backwards in the tuning process to repeat several times prayers of supplication for the uplifting of joy in life. This instrument is now in satisfactory balance to begin channeling. So this happens a lot if you read the conscious channeling on the LNL website. They have to retune themselves as instruments for beings to channel through. And Carla will either sing, which will make her happy. She smiles, she gets very uplifted, or she'll say a prayer that reminds her of her connection to Christ or the greater reality. And she finds her red ray opening through that process of singing or praying while she's in a channel. So that was the first part of the red ray and how Quo says to kind of keep that open and how to check yourself throughout the day and some visualization techniques. So now moving into that first density and the density of the color red, where we see our Earth here. And Quo says that your Mother Earth has moved through the red ray energy center in which the entities of earth, wind, fire, and water have been able to solidify life as you know it. The simple awareness of being was able to come forth. This simple awareness then expressed itself as those four basic elements, so the elements of wind and fire could blow and burn incandescently. Just like on the left screen, billions of years ago, the earth was just rock and wind and fire all moving around. The wind and fire would teach earth and water to be formed into oceans, rivers, lakes, lands, islands, and continents. So a channeling from a being like Quo from the Confederation says, the movement of fire expresses the excellence of destruction, the other side of the coin of knowledge. The water is the nurturer, the mother aspect of the creator, and is a blessing to first density as well as second and third. It is a being of crystalline nature, much as is the rock or crystal. It is therefore more able to be charged with consciousness. Wind and fire may be charged with consciousness, but only momentarily. So this instrument has a habit when she is tuning of consulting the archangels, which she associates with the elements of first density, earth, air, wind, and fire. We suggest that you experiment with calling these entities before you begin toggling between the magical personality and everyday life. So Carla, or Jim would do the banishing ritual of the pentagram, which is a ritual that's been used for thousands of years. And they would call forth these beings representing the four elements and the four directions. And they would help clear any negative energies and allow the channeling to commence. So here is Jim helping Carla again get set up for the raw contact, and he and Dawn would charge the chalice of water, and upon coming back into her body after the channeling, she would drink that water and it would bring her back into her body and make her feel like herself again. So the charging of water intentionally is something they did every session, and Ra told them to do. So in session 1, Ra says the charging of water is done by those present placing their hands over the glass and visualizing the power of love entering the water. This will charge that very effective medium with those vibrations. And then I remembered this image from Dr. Emoto that did the study of freezing water after different tones or things were said to the water. And it says, if thoughts could do this to water, imagine what they can do to you. And I then thought of how we are mostly water, and this picture breaks down the percentage of water throughout our body. And Quo says, the central gift of water is its impressions of consciousness. Water can be magnetized to hold pure emotion. Consequently, water is a very magical element, a crystal that can be solid, liquid, or gaseous. And yet, it is a crystal in terms of the way it can hold ideas, thoughts, and emotions. I really like the idea of charging water every morning, being extra conscious of every drop that I'm drinking, and just thankful for clear water when I'm showering. Just ask the archangels to come in and charge that water and to have it clear off any negative energy, and just really appreciate water so much more. So moving into the elements and ways that we connect with them ourselves is on the left, we have Wim Hof, who is seen sitting on ice and able to withstand cold temperatures for hours. And this is done through certain breathing techniques and the power of the mind, the own internal heat of the body. And on the right, we have a picture of, say, a ceremonial shaman or person that is trying to connect with fire or using fire to enhance the, I would say, ability to connect with ancestors or whatever intentions they're putting out there. And then we have stones and our bones that get reabsorbed back into the ground and the dirt. And a picture on the right is cremated ashes that are pressed into stones, and people can leave them around their yard or just put them out into the world instead of spreading ashes. So we do just turn back into stone. And here's some more ways that our ancestors have connected with stones and the natural world elements around us. On the left, we have a picture of Native American petroglyphs, and it's describing the stone face there being a portal that which they would use to move through. And on the right, we have these megaliths and structures of huge rocks that are stacked and balanced in ways that intrigue us today, and say they kind of line up with the ley lines and the earth energies, and people before our modern day seem to be more in tune with the elements and ways to connect with earth. And we have wind and the person blowing out the birthday candles, the power of wind, and creating that ritual of blowing out the fire, using a wish and hoping something comes into your life. And on the right's the idea of being able to manipulate wind. And a popular show nowadays is the Earthbender and Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they go into how to manipulate air and wind in that show. It's pretty popular nowadays. So back to Yam, they say, the ground upon which you stand, the rocks, the water, the chemicals, the wind, the fire are all of a simple mind, completely lost in the Creator. Thus, one who is a true magician may cause changes in consciousness at will. One with faith may indeed move the mountain or cause that to happen, which seems a miracle. So moving to the stones of the Great Pyramid, and thinking of how did they get those stones to be moved in a way that's so amazing to us. So Ra talks about the idea of everlasting rock, which they state they built the pyramid out of. They say if you can understand the concept of thought forms, you will realize that the thought form is more regular in its distortion than the energy fields created by the material in the rock, which has been created through thought form. So it's like saying your soul is more of a regularized concept or thought than your body. So your soul has many bodies and it's more regular in its thought. So how were those blocks moved? Ross says that you must picture the activity within all that is created. The energy, though finite, is quite large. That energy is intelligent, and it is hierarchical. Much as your mind-body-spirit complex dwells within a hierarchy of vehicles and retains the shell or shape or field and the intelligence of each ascendingly intelligent or balanced body, so does each atom of such a material as rock. When one can speak to that intelligence, the finite energy of the physical rock body is put into contact with the infinite power which is resident in the more well-tuned bodies, be they human or rock. So I see Yoda here being so able to tune himself that he is connecting with the energy that is within the rocks, which is the same energy deep within his own red ray or first density self. With this connection made, a request may be given. The intelligence of infinite rockness communicates to its physical vehicle, and the splitting and moving which is desired is then carried out through the displacement of the energy field of rockness from finity to a dimension which we may call infinity. That which is required is accomplished due to the cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator indwelling in the living rock. So it's intelligent. Every pebble, every rock has the same intelligent energy that we do within our body. And the reason the pyramids were built, when asking Ra, were to create a being to spread the law of one, to have the chakras cleared. And we start down here in the subterranean chamber or the below ground red ray, the first chamber that the adept would go into to begin their initiation into becoming a mind, body, spirit complex totality. So why was the red ray or the red ray chamber put there, and what did people go into it for? Can you tell me what this chamber did to the entity to create this awareness? The mind was affected by sensory deprivation and the archetypical reactions to being buried alive with no possibility of extricating the self. The body was affected both by the mind configuration and by the electrical and piezoelectrical properties of the materials which were used in the construction of the resonating chamber. And I find this fascinating now that all those new scans came out of what's beneath the pyramids to see how that would affect this subterranean red ray chamber. The so-called resonating chamber may be likened unto the burial and resurrection of the body, wherein the entity dies to self and, through this confrontation of apparent loss and realization of essential gain, is transmuted into a new and risen being. So I see down here the the top picture, the different spirals are the energy centers, and it shows the first spiral of energy moving through that red ray chamber. The materials used would create a way for a person to have that out of body experience, and kind of like the image shows, looking back at yourself and to realize I'm not this body. What a gift it is to have life. And kind of like the picture of the baby smiling, you're that newborn sense into everything is, amazing, and how the newborn views the world. So that was the first step in becoming the mind, body, spirit complex totality of what the creator designed for us, is to have that out of body experience below the pyramid and to see yourself as not the body. So part three, we have the red ray and what it was kind of used for, and seeing the self outside of the body, moving forward and into the life, into present day. So I thought the idea of a person that I look up to, or someone that Ra says made the first harvest 25,000 years ago. Don asked, so were any of these 150 entities or the Council of Elders names that we know from our historical past that have appeared as incarnated beings we find in our history? Ra says, I am Ra, the one known as the sound vibration complex. Saint Francis of Assisi is of such a nature. And when Googling Saint Francis, he's always talking with birds, connecting with nature, just very in tune with the elements, it seems. And I think of just how cool it would be to be in this image, and all of the creatures of nature come to love you and just want to be around you. So in 2009, Quo says, Gaia has given you the water and chemicals to form a physical body. Just so has the energy from the one infinite creator moved first to the womb of earth and thence into your energy body. Thusly, you are physically and energetically a creature of the earth. And such you are part of the dance of all that is upon the earth. You belong. So some thought forms of first density would be the nature spirits. These might be of some second density as well, but just the devas, gnomes, beings that are intertwined with the nature and elements. So these are real in the same way that your energy body is real. There are those who can see the fairies, gnomes, and pixies. So knowing that the reality of these plant spirits, the connections will begin to deepen and your relationship with them shall bloom. Nature spirits are everywhere, all wanting to play, sing, to dance with you, with all, inviting each to dance this dance into the sun and into the light. The elementals and devas all wait to embrace the one who stops to pay attention and take comfort in nature. When an entity allows itself to admit the entrance of these divine and loving spirits, angels ascend and descend in every fire, in every storm, in every calming breeze, and in all beams of living sunlight. Here lies much food indeed for the spirit. So that really has helped me just connect and not feel as lonely, by knowing and setting the intention to connect with elementals and just spirits that are out there. So this instrument Carla has said that her husband, Jim, only seems to be mowing lawns. In truth, he rides upon his chariot into the kingdom of the Devas and does his dance with them. When you are in your focused state of mind and you are walking upon the ground, feeling the wind, you cannot help but interact with the Devas and nature spirits. So it will be difficult at first to feel the surety of the nature spirits, yet with sheer repetition of asking brings its own results. It is not necessary even for you to know the nature of communication that has taken place in a conscious manner. For much of the work of the David Kingdom is accomplished on an inner level. You may speak to them, though they speak not to you, yet they hear you. You shall contact them if you sit in meditation, and in time, due to your faith, you will be able to feel, hear, or see these spirits. They will respond to you and cooperate more and more as you desire. And the fin horn is mentioned several times from Carla, and I believe Eckhart Tolle made a documentary or book about Findhorn. And Latouille says that one does not have to be sitting, shall we say, on the top of the pyramid to get its intelligent energy. For with consciousness, one can move the pyramid. It is the faith of the individual which builds the energy which makes the miracle possible. Such is what happened at Findhorn. So Ra states that the time of the pyramid is over, and we ourselves can basically do the work and clear our chakras to the point that the pyramids, what they were used for. And Ra says that this was done through the beings or people that lived at Findhorn. And the story of Findhorn is these three people came together and tuned into nature and grew miraculous foods that shouldn't have grown in the area, and they were able to feed themselves, and now they have a whole eco village and ways to live that are in cooperation with the elementals. So it is very grounding to be in touch with the earth. This instrument, for instance, finds it very helpful simply to pull few weeds at the end of the day. Not because she is making such a huge difference in her garden, but mostly because the contact is so soothing and beneficial to her. This slide really helped me after a long day of going out, serving people in the community that are very depressed, using a lot of drugs, or sometimes manipulation and making me feel bad. I'll just go out back and start picking some weeds, and I can feel my mind clear within sometimes even 30 seconds or sometimes a couple minutes. So last, we would ask the angels to help when you bathe. For angels are very good at magnetizing such substances as water or oil. Angels can help place healing energy into the bath water or shower. So the water carries the vibration of love and healing. They are able to help you magnetize love into the food. Homely chores such as cleaning house are ennobled by the angels. They aid you in magnetizing love to the motions that you make with your body and the thoughts that you think while doing daily chores. So this can be a hang up spot for some people, getting pulled into the daily tasks of life and not wanting to do it. But I remember trying to remember the deeper reality and angels around me. And Carla was given the image of, they called them unemployed angels. And they said that, oh, there's 12 sitting on your windowsill and there's 15 standing over there. And they're all waiting for you just to be asked to help you throughout your day. So we leave you now, reminding you, each and every one, that you are perfect, that you have arrived and you have nowhere to go. You have only to become aware of who you are and where you are. Remember the light touch in the midst of all your actions. Remember the great healing effect of laughter. Laugh easily, laugh long, and let yourself be healed with that big smile. And I just like to honor Carla and Jim for living such an incredible life and bringing the raw contact and all this inspirational material that helped me clear my red ray and be able to serve others. So thanks to them and the foundation of my spiritual practice and finding everyone at TOTOH here. So thank you so much. And that was my presentation on the red ray.
Yay. Oh my gosh, Neal, thank you. Thank you so much. That
Beautiful.
I'm touched and moved and just love it when you put your mind and your heart towards really understanding the, some aspect of the material. I think I'm definitely benefited. Um, yeah, and I think we can just kind of open it up for questions for Neal and also just discussion. So what was exciting for you? What stimulated you? And we can use the raise hand function, but there's also just a few of us, so also we can just feel free to jump in if it's as long as it's working out, we can just do that.
Hello, y'all.
Hi.
Nice to meet all of y'all. My name's Canyon. I've kind of been lurking like y'all's webpage for years now, actually. I also had kind of a similar spiritual awakening in 2020 and have been through the material a couple times and have been, yeah, on and off, and it's been a crazy ride since then. So, it's really good to finally meet in community here with other people, like-minded. So that's super cool. And Neal, thank you very much for the presentation. I very much needed to hear that today. Like fear and insecurity and all those things have definitely been a theme of my day today. So it's like very synchronistic to be here listening to that and being like, okay, yeah. So, um, cool. Happy to be here. Didn't necessarily have any questions. Just wanted to say thank you and hi and introduce myself.
Yeah, thank you, Canyon, and welcome. Is
Yeah,
this your
glad
first
to have
time participating with Toto in any way?
Yeah, it is. So I moved here in Asheville about a year ago, and before that, I don't remember. I think I was maybe had heard of Toto from some of the podcasts on LLR research, I think is what I remember. And so, yeah, so life's been super busy and I've been like a little bit fearful to like come and meet in communion for this because this has always been like a very private part of my life, but it's cool to open up with it. And more of that has been happening for me in like various different ways, but like it very much all started and is centered and rooted in like the cosmology and philosophy of the law of one, and like it kind of branches out from there. So yeah.
Welcome.
Cool. Glad you found us.
Yeah.
Mr.
All
Moon.
right. Well, Neal, your presentation was so thorough that it doesn't seem like anybody has questions. Let's see. Does
Aaron
anybody have
raised
a
his
question?
hand.
You
Well,
do?
I just wanted to say, Neal, you're awesome. I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. I really do. I just like am uh deeply moved by your dedication. And I'm deeply moved by your like humility. Like when you talk about what you've learned from Law of One and you give these presentations, you always like weave in your personal story in a way that I find very relatable and honest. And I just really appreciate how you kind of make it human. And your graphics are always awesome. They help the material
Mm,
because the material is so esoteric sometimes and hard to understand and grasp. And like the visuals you give, like really help it kind of like have a resonance and vibration that's visual and not language. So awesome job.
Totally.
Thank you very much for
yeah.
all you do for
Much
us.
love to you as well. I'm
And
grateful
I
for
do have
everything.
one question.
Yeah.
It was related to part 2 and the densities and how like the densities relate to the rays and the colors. And this is a question I've had for a while, like first density planetary life. My understanding is that like not every planet has an active first density. Like some planets have no, they haven't begun the octave journey. There's no awareness hasn't begun or something. And I think when Don was asking Ra about the planets in our solar system, Ra said, mentioned all the planets that were moving through the densities or like sponsoring life that was moving through the densities, and then mentioned, I think it was like Neptune or one of those outer planets, and like, oh, and they're
Jupiter.
like, yeah, and maybe that one will start hosting life too, because it's the beginnings of first density have like
All right.
awakened or something like that, which suggests that like Mercury, for example, like has no first density. Like first density isn't even activated there. And I'm like, what's the difference between a planet and a planet that's first density? Because when I read the description of first density, you might just think, well, it's just chemical elements. If there's chemical elements present, then there's first density life. But it doesn't seem to be at least on a planetary level. That doesn't seem to be the case from where I was saying. Anyone have any thoughts, Neal, or anyone else have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's tricky. I know that they talk about it being in a timeless state, and I don't know if when time, space, there's some moment that happens in a spirit, the entities are awakened in some awareness, but I don't know what the difference between a rock or a planet that seems to be just rock without anything else is different than a conscious rock.
I mean, I think that I would draw the parallel of like a personal, like we as people go through spiritual awakenings. I don't really see why a planet would be kind of any different. Like, as above, so below, so so on and so forth. So I could definitely see that. But
Now, if those planets are in a timeless state, as Neil said, that sounds to me like how I would describe our sublogos, the sun, you know, being in a timeless state. And as I understand it, our sublogos, the sun, is like in all the densities simultaneously in a timeless state. So if those planets who are not going through the densities are also in a timeless state, it sounds like they're just an extension of the sublogos of the sun.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm.
Wondering if the sub logos gives some sort of intelligent push for that planet to start its densities, or if that's just like what intelligence begins that
Yeah.
transition.
And one thought I had is like, it's so fascinating, this idea that fire and air teach earth and water. Like that is so interesting. And I wonder, like, some planets might not have that, like, have basically it's like the hydrological cycle is kind of how I think about it. Like, if there's no hydrological cycle, if everything's just locked in stasis and there's no interaction of the four phases of matter, then maybe there's just no lessons happening yet. But once like a hydrological cycle begins, then that might be what sparks first density or something.
right, and the two elements of fire and earth are like represented by the masculine elements in a lot of systems as well too. So there's always kind of like, or not fire and earth, fire and air, and then we have like water and earth that kind of always sit in potentiation. And then when the two come like that is like sexual. When the two like start to interact, that is like the first signs of like sexual union.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Neil, do you have any like personal rituals? You mentioned a few things in your presentation, um, like in the morning and in the evening, but that you have done specifically, given law of one context for balancing your own red ray.
Yeah. So I would say in the morning, upon first awakening, I try to, the very first thought is just thank you. Thank you for this day. And I'm usually looking at my phone or doing something else. And maybe 10 minutes after that, I try to sit in meditation and do what these slides have said. And what yes am I, or what no do I have, and how can I open that with the yes? Where am I at today? Imagining it spinning brighter and brighter, brighter, and the red color really beaming up, and trying to get that visualization. And then moving up to my physical level, I'll bring that smile up as much as I can. Um, and then I've been practicing the banishing ritual more and more in the morning to call about the archangels and try to go forth into my day with that connection or awareness that, everything's alive, and not just driving on the street, going to work, but these trees are alive, and the spirit of the sand on the side of the road, and keep that awareness further. So I
Yeah.
think mostly in the morning. Yeah.
Hmm. But you practice that, like, I would say consistently every day.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
say keep myself out of where I was before, and before the law one, and not wanting to be on this planet. It can pull me back down if I miss easily. So I know how important it is to keep myself.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. Yeah. Even though it seems like, I feel like a lot of people in the spiritual space want to concentrate so much on the upper three triads, but it always seems to come back to the root chakra, the red ray, and being able to keep that. I kind of feel like grounding me into the earth, into Gaia, but it's always coming back to that. It seems like it's like a consistent work. It's balancing, going out in the world, balancing some more, but I don't want to be lost in the sauce of just the upper three triads and trying to open my third eye. I mean, there's so much work to do, in my opinion, in the red ray, in balancing and being connected to safety and love. I really thank you for the presentation, Neal. It was most enlightening, and I know you worked hard on it. So your graphics, I second that with Aaron. Stupendous.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, just one thing to say to that with the um, Saint Francis. So I was speaking with Doug Scott in our other Law One group, and he says a famous thing that Francis would say is to incarnate more fully, and to fall into the incarnation as much as you can. So he was out in nature and, serving, being around people, just really trying to go deeper into the red ray, into the orange ray, and not just go above. So it kind of seems like there's that time of getting to know yourself, clearing them, moving into the heart, having your wisdom and boundaries, and speaking in a way that is in tune with the creator. And then you kind of go back with that, back to the red ray. And I'm now here fully in this physical form. Yeah. West.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just wanted to jump in with yeah, how that's really resonating for me as well. Like the like really letting myself be here on Earth. That's something that I have worked on for a number of years, and like I'm still working on. But yeah, it's especially alive for me right now. Like I feel like I'm getting traction on it. I think I have been blessed to feel like for the most part really comfortable in my skin, like to feel like, oh, I'm good, but I don't know if I'm good here. Like I don't belong here, that the sort of like wanderer syndrome or whatever. And have kind of fought being on earth, but like, yeah, just really over the years practicing allowing myself to be here, to be more fully embodied. And it's so delicious to do that, and like I feel the benefit to the upper chakras, or the upper triad too. Like I feel the difference. um yeah. And I also wanted to share a little practice that I do just like driving around town. There's a lot of times when I cross a river, whether it's the French Broad or the Swanano, or pretty much anytime I cross a river, like on a road trip or whatever, it's become kind of automatic. Like I just kiss the river and send love to the river. And yeah, part of the intention there is like um to just charge it and let the water know that we're grateful. You're here for us and we appreciate you. We're aware. Thank you for being here. And to like allow the river to then carry that gratitude out wherever it's going. Um, yeah. Um, there was something else that I wanted to say, but I don't remember the flavor of it though. Whatever specific thing it was about, it was like, yeah, just grateful for this presentation. Really grateful. I want to say that again. Thanks for your life force energy put into this presentation, Neal, and for sharing it with us.
You're welcome.
Aaron.
Aaron is next, I believe.
Yeah. One of the things that I think of when I think of the red ray and its function in our lives and our spiritual paths is like I feel really blessed to have had teachers um, along the way who've helped me kind of realize that the earth is like Gaia is leading the way into fourth density. Like she is the master like engine for spiritual evolution for all of our experience here on the planet. Um, and one of those teachers is Natalie. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Natalie, but I'm curious if you have anything to say about this. But I remember, Natalie, you led a process, a ceremonial process I was in one time, um, and you helped me visualize the red ray like opening and like reaching down into the earth like a mycelial network, like mycelia. And I'd never had that visualization before, and it really helped me. Like I've had people lead meditation saying put your roots down into the earth, but it was like this specific visualization of mycelia from the red ray down to the earth as a way to connect to her and really like lean into and reach into the power that she has and the way that she can lead us. And that was awesome, and that's still with me. Um, but yeah, I feel like the red ray is in a way sort of like it helps us to connect to that power that Gaia is and has for us. And I invite you to say anything, Natalie, if you want to, but you don't have to. I know I don't want to put you on the spot.
You want to say anything, Natalie, before I go?
Why don't you go now, Kent, since your hand's up?
Okay. Well, yeah, okay. I love the connection between the root chakra and joy. I never thought of that before. And joy is something that I've felt increasing in my life. Like it just keeps increasing more and more in my life, especially the last few years. Uh, it's been fascinating to sort of witness that. And I loved your story about sending love to the water, to the rivers, BJ West. I do that when I go out in nature. I send love to nature. I never thought of sending love to rivers specifically, but anytime I'm out in nature, I send love to my environment, to the plants, to the land. I'll try to remember to send love to the water because that'll spread in a different way. That's a very good idea. And also bless when I eat, I say a little prayer. One of the things I say in my prayer is, Dear God, please bless this food and fill it with for me optimum amount of your love and light. And I use that word optimal because, that can be different from moment to moment, what's optimal for me. And it's different from person to person, what's optimal. How much we can receive. So anyway, yeah, that's my 2 cents. Natalie, are you ready? Did she leave?
She's here.
Okay.
She's enjoying her lovely little flatbread open face sandwich thingy.
If
Okay,
anybody
good.
else has to share, I'll go next. It'd be great. I'm
Yeah.
almost.
So off that, Kent, I was thinking about joy and the way that the subterranean red ray chamber was used.
Mhm.
And one way that I've connected with that is not, I haven't had an actual view myself from above, like the image, but listening to near-death experiences and people that have died and can explain it in a way that resonates with me really brings up that joy and remembering that separation between the body and what we're here now. So that kind of helps me with the joy aspect.
Mhm. Yeah.
I have one more thing to say if there's room for it now. Okay, so this is a different topic, but so when I like think about my relationship with my red ray and like what issues come up for me around red ray blockage, um, for a while now I've been pretty steady and stable in my health and in my body, and I don't feel like I have survival issues um, in any kind of physical embodiment way. But it really comes up like money. You mentioned money, Neal, and I feel like for a lot of people, money probably is an issue that would come up if we scan the red ray. And I don't know if any of you heard the term Babylonian money magic, like the matrix of money. Like this is super conspiratorial, and I don't, I don't adopt this idea, but it occurs to me that it's possible that like the technology of money, like the idea of money, um, is a pretty profound thing. And like in my experience, I feel like it's an abstraction between me and the cycles of Earth that provides, like the natural way that the Earth just provides for every need that we have is actually met by Earth. But like there's this intermediary that's in the way that like money is this exchange system that we put between our living systems, our bodies and our needs and our families and communities, and the things that sustain those things, those systems. And anyway, I just feel like so many people on the planet struggle, I think, with red ray issues around money. And there was a quote in your presentation, Neal, that said something like once people are seated or settled in their red ray, like so much becomes available in the higher realms. And it's like, so many of us are like struggling with like, safety and our needs are going to be met because of money. And I'm like, that might have been one of those like really clever negative tricks. And it might not, I'm not trying to like say that, but it's just such a big shared thing that I think interrupts a lot of people's red ray sense of balance and openness.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say I do think the mechanism of money, the technology that money is, what was it introduced and is like the foundation of the social engineering that's happened and happening on the planet. Um, I definitely do think that. And I'm actually getting ready to take a group of people through multidimensional money, which is a course or a prosperity portal, a healing portal. Um, we're going to work with the lower four centers actually. But I've done a ton of work in the root and it's so freaking important. It's like it's the most important. It's the foundation. It's like without the foundation, everything else is like wonky. I'm so glad that embodied journey work session was so good for you, Aaron. I love that stuck with you, and um, yeah, I've like just continued to develop my relationship with Gaia through the root and through like contact with my body and the body of the earth. And yeah, I mean, I have a lot to say about all of these things, um, but I don't want to get too far out from our presentation. And it was awesome. Thank you so much, Neal. And I also want to say that the picture of young Carla like smiling, like I was so touched by those, there were two side by side pictures. I just like like really saw her essence. Like I think mostly I've seen her pictures of her like lying on the, as the channel where she's kind of not there, and I just felt really touched and was like, oh my God, thank you, God.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for figuring out how to do this for us. Like we've all received so much from this material. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I guess I'll just say to leave you with like some concepts like Aaron mentioned. I see a taproot is really wonderful to work with, and then the rootlets that come off of the taproot. And then the mycelial layer is sort of surface level, but it's like where all of the communication happens. It's like electrical. And there are deepening like layers to the root. There's Everyone has a unique anchor point that's your birthright, that's close to the center of the earth. I call it the magnetic root because like once you've contacted it, like wherever you could be in an airplane, above the ocean and you'd still have contact. You could still have contact with your magnetic root. Like anywhere you go on the planet, you can have that. So it's like, it's your birthright to have this unique anchor point that's like, yes, you deserve to be here. And that's foundational for dissolving the fear and stepping into right livelihood and things like that. And then, yeah, there are some other layers, but I'll just leave you with that. Taproot, your unique anchor point, and then the rootlets and the mycelial layer is where, like, I mean, that is where the plants are communicating with each other, and the fungus are communicating with each other, right, through those networks. But we can tap into that and really feel the aliveness that's running through the first and second density space.
Feels like the red ray chamber was right in that taproot. So you were fully in a room that was in the middle of that creator's taproot. And then the energy would move in a spiral just like it moves up our chakras. And yeah, so I could just imagine the column going beneath the pyramid and that being the root. And
Yes. Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I also
Oh,
I also think that like when it comes.
we hold on just 1 second. Thank
Mhm.
you. Because I think Natalie, you have some like videos that maybe we could point people to if they want more information. Is that right? Maybe not about root.
What about the root? Not right now, not that I can think of.
Okay.
I'm getting ready to make some more audio transmissions. They'll be for sale.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to be doing the spine and the magnetic root and the blue electrics, which is like one of the other layers that you can access through the earth.
Well, okay.
No videos
Thanks.
currently. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for pausing, Canyon.
Oh yeah, no worries. I think that like one of my challenges with the material is not to just been like the visual that comes to mind is just like pumping your head with so much information that the head grows and grows and grows and grows, and all of a sudden you're flying 3,000 feet in the air and like where is ground, and then like all of a sudden your head pops and you come crashing down, right? So like this ability to stay grounded, that's been more like, I've been working with the material or like the ideas around this material for the last 5 years or so, and that's like this like coming back to like, okay, first there's ground, and like first we exist in space, we live in space time, not time space, and like all of that kind of is just something that I think about a lot, actually.
It's an interesting thought, when you study spiritual material, you can get so uplifted by it that you can lose touch with your groundedness.
Yeah, absolutely, that cost me a lot of relationships.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's interesting. That's a good point.
Yeah, I have less so now because I have more of a practice of connecting with my body and with the earth. But in the past, like I have really felt like I could float away. Like I really just could not be here anymore and disappear and like dissipate into just kind of nothingness. And like, yeah, that I think that I have a personal kind of bias towards um ethereal, airy nature. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's also true that just like in like a modern society, especially in the US, we live in kind of an ethereal, like an intellectual, like ethereal, like head down type of society. I know that a lot of like you're saying about connecting with my body, that's what a lot of it's been for me. Like right now I'm studying school for like massage therapy and I've been doing like a lot of yoga and different like practices like that have really like it really kind of like is what helps cement me down.
I just learned that there's a Kent, I wonder if you have ever heard anything like this. It's not, I know it's not from where you're from, but it's in Scandinavia. There's like a Norwegian, um, I don't know how to represent this, but someone was saying like there's a Norwegian sort of like cultural perspective that like if you ever get depressed, put on your work clothes, go outside and like work, just work. You'll work it out. Like if you put your work clothes on and go like dig in the garden or like chop wood or whatever, like it just helps depression. It's just like
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
just a fact of life. You get in your body, you get active, and it helps.
Yeah. I've never heard that, but it sounds very Norwegian. Yeah. They're really into exercising also,
hmm
outdoors exercising. Uh, yeah, the Norwegians are quite amazing. I lived in Norway for a year, and after that year, I would tell everybody, in all that time, I only met one Norwegian I didn't like, and he was the head of the organization that I was a part of, which was funny. Yeah, everybody else, all the other Norwegians I met, I love them.
Say, one thing that comes to mind for some more red ray healing is music and certain songs. Like Carla would do prayer, or she would sing certain songs that were mostly Christian related, but things that brought up her joy. And I don't think I put anything in there, but I definitely notice with music that'll pull me right into happiness and dancing when I'm by myself and
Mm.
just completely change my day around.
Yeah. The quote that I put in the chat that stood out to me most out of the whole presentation, that's like I feel like going to be my takeaway is strong red ray energy is the allowing of the self to rejoice in the feeling of life, which was a quote. It's like, oh man, boom. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah, I love that too.
Something that's also been coming up in my life in regards to red ray energy is anger a lot and like how for me the idea of anger has been something that I've liked to like keep tucked away in a box and kind of like had this like suppressive quality of like I don't want to go there and then like so there's like a shutting down of coming from it but like also I've recognized that like with that anger is a lot of potential energy and a lot of energy to be able to do work if I can work with it. And like that's like something that's like literally brand new, something that's been kind of like thinking about this week. But like when you had touched on anger really briefly, Neil, like that was one of the things that kind of came up for me of like there is like there's definitely like I can feel the blockages in myself around red ray and around anger quite a lot and like lack of being able to you know go through it and stuff like that and like to the point where like like there's like ways that I want to be active in ways that I want to like serve in this life that I feel like there's like just needs some energy or some fuel sometimes and like sometimes that like sitting in that like just like kind of like watching what's going on in the world right now, and like with everything that's going on like politically, I'm like, man, like I really want to be able to serve and like help the people that I feel like are kind of really going through of it, where maybe I'm not as much. And like anger has been something that, like, for me, I actually like disengage from like kind of paying attention to what's going on in the world, because I do feel anger. And then like it's like, well, it's like a shutdown. And so like I'm trying to work with it in a way that is more of a going through and a harnessing, as opposed to an avoiding and a shutting down. But anyways.
I go through the same thing and have definitely still working on anger, and like the quote says, to kind of at the beginning of the day see where you're at, kind of bring some humor to it and accept it. And I have thought of myself as taking backward steps from my spiritual path, or beating myself. How could I do this? I'm not that person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of it. And I think
Yeah, absolutely.
making mistakes too is just that another trap of putting that blockage in the red race. So moving back to the pyramid and, out of body, we're going to die one day, and how much will this matter? So yeah, can I laugh at myself for being so angry over something?
Yeah, absolutely. I like to sing, like I like to make stupid songs and sing about it when I'm alone in my car, like in traffic, and then I'm just like laughing at myself because it's kind of ridiculous. But
Yeah. I like
I love that, Canyon. I love that you do that. That's awesome. I love that visual.
the inspiration of the quote from you, West, just reminds me again of Carla and her life with so much pain and illness and struggle, that she still showed up and served with a smile and just kept going. And that's an inspiration to me, just to see her. And Canyon, she has a YouTube video where she's in her last couple years in bed sick, and she's talking about speaking to her own anger and her own fear and those emotions, and she's crying when she says it, and she talks about bringing her emotions into the light. And it was powerful to me, for me to hear Carla talking about that, like partnering with her anger and then using it to channel.
yeah, absolutely. It gives me a lot of hope. It like, yeah, um, it's taken me a while to accept it.
Well, just a couple minutes left. Anybody have some closing thoughts before we end with a prayer?
I have one more thing I could say.
Yeah.
That quote you called out about strong red ray energy is the allowing of the self to rejoice in the feeling of life. It's so poignant. And, the idea, the idea that the red ray is the foundation, that all of the rest of the octave, all of the rest of the experiences that souls have, that we have, like, stand on that. And, Ra talks about like the one original thought, this idea that there's one core idea that the creator had that like birthed the entire universe. And I know you can't translate that into words, but the closest I've ever come, I feel like it's life. The one original thought is life. Like and like that's a kind of an abstract thought in and of itself, but just like everything we experience of growth and creation and beauty and abundance and fertility, like that's all expressions of like the one original thought. And so it just feels poignant that like the red ray is the ground we stand on to experience life. It's the ground that we stand on to support the one infinite creator's original thought and how that wants to come through us.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I heard an acronym, life is love in full expression. We're just love and expression.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's cool.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, friends. Thanks for being together in this way. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your hearts, our hearts with each other. Thank you again, Neal. Thank you for the invisible support that we got, we called upon, and showed up for us. I invite us again to feel that connection with the earth, in this moment on earth that we're in the equinox, and in the northern hemisphere we're moving away from the dark of winter towards the bright light of summer. It's a really potent time for us to be outside and connecting with the earth. Thank you, Mama Earth. And thank you, as always, to the one infinite creator. Love y'all.
Much
Yeah.
love.
What is that?
It's a heart.
Heart.
A tiny heart.
Okay.
What was that one, Aaron? I didn't get that. What is
The
What
heart.
is that?
It's a
Just
tiny
a
heart.
little heart.
It's a tiny
Oh,
heart.
oh,
okay.
It's like
I
I think it's a
see.
Japanese thing. I've got a thing for Japanese
Okay.
culture.
Okay.
It's weird.
I was looking at the whole picture and I was like not focusing on the little heart there at the top. I see now. Okay. Very cute. Thank you.
Yeah.
Little mini heart. Okay. Thanks, Neal.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye,
Okay.
y'all. Nice
Bye-bye.
meeting you.
Maybe I'll see some of y'all tomorrow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll be there. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.